Today, I'm gonna show you the most common soap making failures. And let me tell you something, there is no such thing as a failed batch for no reason. Every failure has a cause, and every failure is preventable. And the way you prevent every soap making failure is going from someone who is following recipes to someone who is designing their own recipes and understands formulation and the why behind each ingredient. So let's start. Failure number one, dreaded orange spots. What is that? Dreaded orange spots, it's basically when your oils go rancid. You can see here your oils oxidize and they create these orange spots right here, which aesthetically is not beautiful, but you can still use the soap. The soap is still safe to use, it's just that aesthetically it doesn't look beautiful and it has this rancid off smell. There are certain ways to prevent dreaded orange spots, such as you have to store your soap in a dry and cool place and use as fresh ingredients as possible. But the most important cause of dreaded orange spots is linoleic acid. And this is actually the real cause of dreaded orange spots. Linoleic acid is an acid present in most of the oils, especially the conditioning ones. And the problem with linoleic acid is that it's a very unstable oil. It's very prone to oxidation. So when linoleic acid oxidizes, it creates these orange spots that we saw before. We have four different categories of oils. We have conditioning oils that offer conditioning properties to your lather. We have cleansing oils that offer a lot of bubbles to your lather. We have creaminess and hardness, so oils that offer structure, creaminess and hardness to your lather. And then we have richness and thickness, so those are the oils that basically boost lather. So if we go to category number one, conditioning oils, we will see a lot of different oils like olive oil, sunflower oil, avocado oil, rice bran oil, sweet almond oil, and so on. If we look at the fatty acid composition, you will see that most of these oils contain oleic acid and linoleic acid and a bit of palmitic acid. Oleic acid is basically what adds conditioning properties to your lather. So once it converts to sodium olate, once it reacts with lye, it converts to sodium olate, and that's basically what creates the conditioning and gentle lather. But they also have a high concentration of linoleic acid. And linoleic acid is basically the main cause of dreaded orange spots because it oxidizes very, very easily. And the reason it oxidizes for those of you who are into chemistry is because it has two double bonds. So you can see here it says C18-2, it means that it has two double bonds, and the more double bonds a substance has, the more prone to oxidation it is. Cool, so olive oil is not very prone to oxidation because it has a low concentration of linoleic acid. But let's take a look at some other ones. Rice bran oil, linoleic acid 15 to 35%. Sweet almond oil, linoleic acid 17 to 30%. Then you have things like pumpkin seed oil, 45 to 60% linoleic acid. And not only that, but it's also very expensive. So you're paying a lot of money for something that will lead to dreaded orange spots. Grapeseed oil, 69 to 78% linoleic acid. Regular sunflower oil, 60 to 70% linoleic acid. So if you're planning to use sunflower oil, I always recommend you use high oleic sunflower oil, which has been processed so that it has a higher concentration of oleic acid and a lower concentration of linoleic acid. So the takeaway here to avoid dreaded orange spots is that you have to choose a conditioning oil that is high in oleic acid and low in linoleic acid. And then if we go to the other categories, cleansing oils, creaminess and thickness, most of them, they pass the test. Basically, they are very low in linoleic acid concentration. They're mostly high in stearic, palmitic acid when it comes to hardness and structure. And when it comes to cleansing oils, they're high in lauric and myristic acid because those are the acids that add a lot of bubbles to your lather. By the way, I have put together a free PDF with the 7 ingredients that can replace literally half of your bathroom. And the reason I'm sharing this free PDF is because I want to show you, you don't need 100 different ingredients to make soap. You don't need 100 different oils and spend money in different ingredients that add no extra value to your soap. soap. If you want this free soap PDF, it's very viable. It contains the guide on how to make different skincare products from dish soap, hand soap, shaving soap, lip balm, deodorant with only 7 ingredients. If you want this, comment I want the formulation and I will send it to you as soon as I see your comment. Cool. Now let's go to failure number 2, which is creating a soft and mushy bar. Have you ever made a soap that you were very excited to use and then you cured it for 4 to 6 weeks, just like the common rule, cure your soap for 4 to 6 weeks, and then you tried it into the bathroom and it was so soft that it almost melted in your hands. And this is usually the case with high olive oil concentration soaps. So soaps that are high in olive oil, they need longer curing. Why is that? Olive oil is high in oleic acid. This is a very long acid and it needs a lot of time to be converted into soap. So it actually takes months. If you make a soap with above 70% olive oil concentration, then you need to cure it for minimum 6 months. I know it sounds a lot, but let me tell you something. The result is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite soaps to use because it's so gentle, it's long lasting and very conditioning. So if we choose, for example, let's say I go here and I say olive oil, click add olive oil 100%. Then here it will say the high concentration of oleic acid means this bar needs minimum 6 to 12 months cure. Cutting early produces a slimy and poorly lathering bar that feels coated on skin. This is completely true. So you need to cure them for a long time. If you want hardness, if you want soaps that are very hard after 4 to 6 weeks, you need to increase the stearic and palmitic acid concentration, meaning that you need to increase fats and butters like shea butter, cocoa butter, lard, beef tallow. Those 4 are the ones that lead to a very hard and long-lasting bar. So an example would be that we use, for example, beef tallow, and we use something like 55% beef tallow. Then we use, let's say, 15% coconut oil to add a bit of bubbles to your lather. We use 5% of castor oil that will add richness to your lather. And then we use 25% olive oil that will add these conditioning properties. And here it will say it has good hardness, balanced cleansing, good conditioning. So it's a very, very balanced bar overall. Now let's go to failure number 3. And this has to do with trace acceleration and seized butter. This is one of the most frustrating things in soap making. When you make soap, you mix your oils and lye solution together and then you pour it into, before you even pour it into the mold, it has solidified and it has become so solid that you cannot even pour it out of the bowl. So this is very frustrating. It happens for many reasons. It can happen because you use certain fragrances, certain clays. It can happen because you are operating in a very high temperature. When you're mixing your oils and lye solution, you always need to work in low similar temperatures to have more control over your soap butter. And this, for example, there are certain oils. Let's just say, for example, we use ylang-ylang essential oil. And we want to have something that smells 100% of ylang-ylang. Then, you know, ylang-ylang is basically a moderate trace accelerator. So it's high in esters, and those compounds usually lead to trace acceleration and your soap basically solidifying before you can pour it into the mold. For example, if I use cinnamon bark essential oil and go 100% of that, I will get all the warnings here. It's high risk of seizing your butter, high risk of trace acceleration because it contains both eugenol and aldehyde. And bad thing about cinnamon essential oil is that it's also very irritating for the skin. So you should always be very careful how much you use it because it can cause skin irritation. So basically these substances, what they do is that they accelerate trace. They speed up saponification reaction, that it happens so fast it leads to this unpleasant phenomenon called trace acceleration. Of course, I'm not saying that you shouldn't use essential oils or fragrance oils or clays or salts that lead to trace acceleration. There are certain ways to use those. There are certain techniques to avoid trace acceleration. So one is always work in low similar temperatures to have really good control over your soap butter. Number two is to slightly decrease your lye concentration, so you can go from 36% down to 32% or 30% lye concentration, so you have a more diluted lye solution, and that helps with preventing trace acceleration. That's number two. Number three is always add your additives that cause trace acceleration at the very end. So if you're adding an essential oil blend like geranium, rose, ylang ylang, or a fragrance oil that causes trace acceleration, always add it at the very end, right before you pour it into the mold. So basically you mix your oils and lye solution, you mix until lye trace, and then you pour your essential oil blend, you mix fast, and you pour it into the mold. If you do those three, you will prevent trace acceleration every single time. Failure number 4 is scent faded. And if you ever made soap that smelled fantastic at first, and after 3 to 4 weeks the scent was completely disappeared, then today you're gonna see why. So this can happen for many different reasons. It can happen, first of all, because you have substances of low molecular weight. Basically, they're very light and they evaporate fast. You add essential oils in your soap, so you add essential oils in an environment that is of high pH, which degrades usually compounds. You also add them in an environment of high temperature, because saponification happens in warm temperature, and the higher the temperature, the higher the evaporation. And you also have oils that are prone to oxidation. So every time you open a bottle, oxygen goes in, and that basically oxidizes your essential oils. So there are a lot of forces that lead to those problems. One way to make your essential oil blend more long lasting is, for example, if I go here and I choose, I want lemon essential oil, I want something that smells of lemon, 100% lemon. It will tell me, oh, you don't have any base notes or fragrance oils to make your essential oil blend more long lasting. So what do? I go down here and I choose a base note. A base note is something that has a high molecular weight and it's very long lasting, and at the same time it makes other scents more long lasting. If I add, for example, 40% patchouli essential oil and 60% lemon essential oil, now it will tell me good anchoring. You have 40% base notes, your blend has enough heavy molecules to anchor the lighter scents for lasting performance. So that's the secret with making your scent more long lasting. You can use base notes to anchor your scent, and then you can have a scent that can last even after 6 to 12 months of soap making. And then you can also use fragrance oils. Fragrance oils are made specifically for soap making. They're long lasting, they're very stable, and they're very cheap. Fragrance oils are synthetic, and make sure you use fragrance oils that do not contain any parabens or phthalates, because those are hormonal disruptors. And failure number 5 is a lye-heavy soap. So every oil has a saponification value, otherwise called a sap value. This basically means how much lye you need for saponifying 1 gram of oil. For example, olive oil has a saponification value of 0.135, meaning that you need 0.135 grams of lye to saponify 1 gram of olive oil. And every oil has a different saponification value. Now, you don't need to calculate this yourself. Thankfully, we have soap calculators like soapcalc.net, where you basically put your percentages and your superfat. You always add the superfat, which is the extra oils you add that do not get saponified, and then it calculates and it tells you how much lye you need to add. And if you make any modification in your recipe, if you decide to change from olive oil to high oleic sunflower oil, if you decide to change from shea butter to beef tallow, whatever you do, you have to recalculate the recipe, because if you don't do that, you are risking adding the wrong amount of lye, and that can be dangerous. So whenever you make a substitution, whenever you decide I want to change this oil from this to this, always recalculate your recipe from scratch. If you want the complete system, the full video course, the formulation tool that I'm using in this video, and everything around soap making and skincare making, then the waitlist for the course is open now. Waitlist members get 50% off when the course opens on April 29th. This is only for 5 days. You can find the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really appreciate that. I hope this could add some value to you, and I hope you could understand how powerful it is to know the formulation behind the ingredients and the why behind things. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time.